I'm Christine Russo, and welcome to What Just Happened. Today we welcome Brandon Singer, CEO and founder of Retail by Mona. Hi, Brandon. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to really get into the real estate scene, particularly in New York City, as it relates to retail. So let's get into Retail by Mona.
Sure.
Very interesting that it came to be in the middle of the pandemic. As you've noted, everyone was leaving the city, including your peers in competition.
Mm-hmm.
So that gave you an opportunity to swoop in. There's been a lot said about that.
I was here, as we said, I started the company in smack in the middle of 2020.
When I would walk around during the pandemic, saw this image in a window and I was like, that's new. The posters in New York stores for leasing, for commercial real estate, retail spaces, flagship turnovers, were the regular crew. And I remember seeing your poster and being like, oh, looks like something new is up afoot. So exciting to hear about that. The foundation for your company, Making of a New Age, Mona, Retail by Mona, like the name a lot, Making of a New Age, and the retail renaissance. Everybody's back now. And there's a lot of activity in commercial real estate for retail. What are you seeing? How are things now?
We've seen New York really bounce back, which is super refreshing from the pandemic. We've seen the luxury players, the LVMHs, the Kerings, the Richemonts of the world, and every other big company, every big designer. They've all been super active in New York with different strategies for flagships, for new experiments in new markets like Williamsburg. As you've seen recently, there's been a lot of news in the press about some of these big companies buying their real estate now as opposed to leasing on Fifth Avenue.
It's interesting because those luxury brand, those houses that purchase their real estate, I wanted to really understand if that's not a distress signal in the market, because while they both paid almost $1 billion for them, and that's a great payout for ownership. Why is this happening? And it's very interesting. This is next level. So can we get into that a little bit?
Sure. I think, look, they're hedging. They're hedging. Fifth Avenue, where they're all buying, is obviously, when times are back in 2016, 2017, rents on Fifth Avenue, I think the Bulgari deal at the Crown Building was done at over $5,000 a foot. These big numbers at $1 billion or 800 million or 900 million. I think if you back into it, I would imagine, and I haven't seen the actual deal sheet, but I just read what's in the press. I would imagine that they're probably underwriting somewhere around $2,000 a foot on the ground floor, and they own it. It's that simple. So they're basically hedging. If everything happens the way it's happened in the past, which it likely will, Fifth Avenue will get back up to that, I don't know about $5,000 a foot, but will definitely be more expensive than $2,000 a foot. So because of that, I think they looked at it as a long-term real estate play to control the narrative. It's Fifth Avenue, Manhattan, was good of retail real estate that there is, arguably the most prominent corner and subsequent block to the south in the world. And because of that, I think they just wanted to control the narrative. They obviously have such a big presence there already. Kering has Gucci across the street at Trump Towers. They locked up the other corner. And Prada obviously had their store there, so they locked up their real estate also. There's a rumor now that LVMH is in the market and is negotiating on the Bergdorf men's building to buy. I don't know how true that is. It was in the press, and we'll see if it actually happens. There was rumors in the past that they were looking to acquire the former Barney's building on Madison. Look, all these buildings are geographically adjacent to one another, with the plus minus a block south, north, east, west. And like I said, it's the 50-yard line of retail on a global scale. It doesn't really get any better. If there's a place to hedge and secure the real estate, this is where it is.
Why did ownership sell?
I think at the end of the day, if you get an offer from somebody and they're your logical tenant and they're saying, we're not going to lease it, but we'll buy it from you, have to listen to where the market's dictating. Now, the one thing that I think is an interesting angle to look at, and what I'm about to say, I hope I'm wrong, I just want to be clear, is that I hope that given the big price tag that these companies are paying, it doesn't preclude them from making real estate decisions in other parts of the city, because they say to themselves, all right, we don't need to go sign a lease on Madison Avenue, or we don't need to go sign a new lease in Soho. We might as well just house all our brands in this mega department store that we have in one location. So I hope that's not the after effect of it. I don't think it will be. It could be, but we'll see. So, the jury's out, and it's going to take a couple of years to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you think that the issues in CRE right now from the interest rate increases over the past 18 months contributed to ownership selling?
Could have, but yeah, I don't know what the debt situation is. I don't know. I don't want to misspeak. It likely did, yes, but who knows?
We're in a time, and we've been here before, although we're not in a recession, it's similar. There's a similar situation occurring, which is if you have a lot of cash, it's a good time to put out some offers.
Totally.
And see who bites.
To your point, with interest rates so high, the cost of capital and CapEx is through the roof. So owners are saying, you know what, we'll build it for you. We'll give you a big TI allowance. So there's different metrics that they're offering to the restaurant occupiers to take space. There's different components of the deal that kind of come back to help the owner. Maybe it's a low base rent with a percentage rent over a break point. There's different ways that owners are participating in the deal, which has helped fuel a lot of the leasing momentum of the F&B players.
You did a lot of work in meatpacking.
Yep.
I've done a lot of work in meatpacking. It's a funky, funny little area for retail, and has been for a while. What are your thoughts on where that stands since the Gucci store opened?
That's a crazy story, that deal, but we'll be here for 2 hours if I told you how that all happened. That was an amazing process to be involved with. But meatpacking has been. We just did another deal, a pretty significant new age retailer that's well capitalized. One of these direct to consumer brands just signed a nice lease with us. But in addition to that, look, we did the Fisker deal there, which is the automotive concept, like the electronic car company. You have Tesla there, you have Lucid, you have Fisker, you have Rivian, and the luxury players have been super active in meatpacking. And I think there's a number of reasons why. Like you said, it's cool, it's funky, it's hip. It has that like New York City grunge that a lot of areas don't, but also is refined, right? It has a sort of an elevated type feeling when you walk down Gansevoort Row. You're hearing leases being signed at numbers in the Meatpacking District, in the interior Meatpacking District, that are frankly 5+ years ago, you would have told me I was crazy if I told you those numbers were going to actually get achieved per square foot. It's a place that people want to be. So because of that, I think you'll continue to see more growth in the district.
What is the story with foot traffic? It's like either very, well, let's talk about the demographics of the area. It's a lot of tourists.
Yep.
Which is great for retail. And they drive, I think, the foot traffic. And so it's really more of a weekend scene, and the weekday scene is locals and just
you have Google and 12 million square feet of office space right there. Now, how many people are coming to work and how many days a week, I don't know, but if things come back to normal or some semblance of normal, that's a humongous driver of people that are, for the most part, pretty well compensated, high income spenders that are looking to. I don't know if you've been down to 15th Street recently on the south side of the Chelsea Market. Unreal. That street used to be no man's land. You wouldn't even think to walk there. And if you walk it now, the whole street is activated with F&B concepts trying to take advantage of that. So I think, yes, to your point, it's tourism, it's local New Yorkers that want a cool place to go and escape. But in addition to that, and the Whitney and the High Line and the nicer weather and Little Island, but in addition to that, Google is a pretty big component of, I think, the future growth of that neighborhood for obvious reasons.
Very interesting. Very interesting that that's a major factor that, let's say you're presenting the area to a brand and they're like, where should we go in New York City? We would go here because of this and here because of that. And sounds to me like Google office presence is a major selling point for that area. Mm-hmm. Let's do a little recapping. Return to office is a major elephant in the room for New York City real estate, period. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, for sure.
No matter the neighborhood.
No matter where. Yes, obviously you need people there. It's really that simple. Look, there's people on the streets. I don't know what they do all day or where they go, but the streets are busy. So they're here doing something. I don't know what it is, but if they're not going up to their offices, they're going somewhere.
Okay, very interesting, because there's a lot of chatter about it, about Midtown and blah, 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 and the little pita shop that's next door and how they can't open and can't service and they're going out of business. But I like one major takeaway out of this is that it's actually everywhere in New York City, including what was never an office area, meatpacking, and how that area has evolved the way it has in conjunction with the office growth there. Let's talk about your actual business. You are in a very competitive space. You're up against huge companies that have really, over the past 20 years, just eaten everyone's lunch and become as industries do, as they mature, they become bigger and fewer players. And then you come along and here you are, you're ready to disrupt everything and you're ready to go for it. And it was perfect timing. You did it when no one was looking.
The occupier pool of tenants that are out there, a lot of them are new age brands, not in the sense that they tried to change the way that they retail, but a lot of them are digitally native, meaning they started on social media or they started with customer acquisition on Google or other things, or just different ways they started. And as they've grown, now they realize, whoa, we got to open stores, right? It was time to do things in a modern way.
And one thing that set you apart is that you opened the dialogue on a sign to say, text us, which felt so small and simple, but certainly resonated with leadership of digitally native brands, direct to consumer, Shopify Plus type of companies that realize the importance of physical retail. What would be one other example of a refreshed approach?
One other one that sticks out is our social media presence. It's at Retail by Mona on Instagram. If you look at it, we've started to really yield the results of a couple of years now, building up our following and who we're targeting. But you're addicted to Instagram. I am, unfortunately. I've tried to work on that. But the whole world is sitting there liking and scrolling and looking at stories all day. We might as well put the real estate in front of these people, targeted, and have them look at, oh, wow, this is an interesting piece. So we DM it, we canvas and we DM the properties to the brands. Now, chances are I'm hitting some marketing person that just graduated college sitting in an office somewhere, but it's an into the brand. They then pass that on to the right person that sees it in a different angle. The other thing, which has nothing to do with a modern technology, is the way that we're structured internally. This is probably the most important thing. The bigger firms are structured, as you probably know, and if you're not, I'll fill you in. It's teams, right? So there's the team leader, and then there's the people that work for that person. That team competes with the team sitting in the office next to them. Even though they wear the same flag of the company they're at, they're competitors, and they don't share info necessarily. Negotiations get tough. The way we're structured is it's one collaborative team. Everyone here is part of the team. Now, sure, different brokers are doing different deals with different clients and they're not partners on everything, but it's an open format. I wish I could show you, but it's everyone sits out there in an open setting and collaborates and talks and meets and shares information. And it's a more open type of approach to a business that's been super siloed and super tight and competitive and argumentative and nasty for too long. That's the biggest thing, in my opinion.
So those three examples are very innate to you. You are the embodiment of that. That's how you live your life. And little did the industry know, that's actually, it seems so simple, but it is a very refreshed way to go about doing business. First, means of communication, meet them where they are. They don't want to use the phone. Let's break through and have texts. Then meet them where they are. They're on social media. Even the owners of a lot of these D2C companies they're built their businesses on social media. They're on social media. If you pay for ads, you're going to get in their feed. So love that breakthrough. And the last one is very interesting. And here's my perspective of it. An industry and a company is only as good as its people. Mm-hmm. And if the old school industry is built on the way the things that you said, that's not how business is really done anymore. And you're not going to funnel in new, fresh talent. So you've switched the narrative and you've made it more of a, I dare I say, safe space for people to grow their career and have a collaborative working environment. That's what the worker wants, right? Like overall, it's a giant generalization, but it is a known fact that happiness at work and satisfaction at work is a major piece of the puzzle. And it looks like you've really tapped into that. So those three things, while they sound fairly simple, are quite innovative.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just totally agree with you. Spot on. Thank you. And I appreciate the pat on the back. It means a lot from a veteran like you. But the other thing that, ideas are great. Theories are great. It's working, which is the point, which is the part of the thing that's actually the most interesting. It's actually working, and we're seeing crazy success and results from a little tweak in the business, just refreshing it. So
I want to thank you, Brandon. This was a great discussion. It was really great to get to know you and what you've been up to at Retail by Mona.
Thank you so much for the time, and I hope to meet you in person one day.